Hi everyone, GigaBeef here, and today we're going to talk about level 5 armor, and believe me, this is a big topic, so stick around and let's get going. Alright, first things first, why level 5 armor as the topic for this particular discussion? Well, basically, level 4 armor is what I would consider the baseline of Tarkov PvP, given class 2 and 3 are pretty much worthless, and level 4 is made accessible fairly early on at level 17 Ragman, trader level 2, where you can buy the 6B 3TM rig for 50,000 rubles in cash. It's not the best level 4 armor, but it's great value for money. However, the issue with all level 4 armors is that once players start getting better rounds, sometimes it will do very little at all to protect you. This is when considering moving up to level 5 is worthwhile, and can really make a big difference to your protection against many routine rounds. To put it in context, we'll use one of the charts that I've put together in previous videos, which is a visualization of Veritas' battle buddy, and as you can see here, with pen chance on the vertical axis and round penetration on the horizontal axis, once you reach bullets with over 41 pen, they have a greater than 90% chance to pen level 4 armor versus only a 13% chance versus the level 5. This is a huge difference. If we look at the ballistics page on the wiki and sort by pen, we can see a few favourites here that get caught in this category, such as FMJSX for the MP7, 762 NATO M80, 366 AP, 762 51 PS, which was previously called 7M1, and M855A1 with 762 BP at the end, and these range between 40 and 47 penetration. Clearly, there is a point at which class 5 armor fails, but this only starts once the pen reaches over 47, which is where the penetration chance is 50% for the first hit, so 762 BP and higher. The alternative is level 6 armor, which is expensive and super high-end rounds go through both level 5 and level 6 anyway, such as M61, which is why level 5 is run much more frequently, and as we will see, there is a lot more choice. Trying to answer the question of what is the best value armor in the level 5 category is really quite difficult because there are so many factors to consider. Let's begin in the easiest place, which is to look at the protection that these armors give you, and here I have consolidated a table of all the level 5 armors in the game and their important stats as of the date that this video is published. We need to refresh 3 of the most basic concepts in armor mechanics that are crucial for understanding what's going on here. A. All armor of the same class performs identically when their durability is at the same percentage of its respective brand new durability. This means that for the very first shot at 100% durability, all level 5 armors have the same chance to prevent a round from penetrating through it. At 50% durability, all level 5 armors still have the same chance to stop a round from penetrating, although clearly this chance will be lower across the board as the armor is worse in quality. This means that to get the best armor, we want it to have the highest durability possible so it doesn't lose its protective qualities as fast. B. The current durability is compared to the brand new durability, so if it's been repaired and was 50 out of 50, but now it's 30 out of 30, Tarkov will still use 50 as the comparison and you'll have an armor that is the same as 30 out of 50 or 60% durability. And C. The material of the armor matters. How much punishment a piece of armor can take depends not only on its durability, but also on its material, because of this table which can be found on the ballistics page of the wiki. Destructibility is a number that represents the amount of damage to durability that an armor takes. Looking at combined materials, for example, this has a destructibility of 0.5 or 50%, which means that when a round hits it and deals armor damage, this durability damage is cut in half. What this does in practice is modifies the durability into what is known as the effective durability, which takes the ordinary durability that you see in game and applies the destructibility number to it to get an effective overall durability, which allows us to compare the different armors evenly despite them having different materials. It's no wonder that people misunderstand this, and the information could easily be rolled into the overall durability figure that we see in the game itself, but that's not the way it is, so we'll just learn to deal with it. To note, armor, steel and ceramic are both really bad on this specific stat. People seem to know this for ceramic, but with steel there is another common misconception that it's good because it repairs quite well. More on that later, but please bear that in mind. Taking each one of these armors and doing the calculation, we get to see which ones are the best and worst when it comes with taking overall punishment. At the top we have the rarely seen Reduc T5, otherwise known as the samurai armor for how it looks, with 200 effective durability, and at the bottom we have the lowly Korund with 64. This, however, is just the beginning. Now that we know how these armors stack up in terms of pure toughness, why don't people use the biggest armors more often? Well, one of the biggest differences outside of straight up durability between these armors in terms of what they actually provide is the hitboxes or areas of coverage where they are effective. The top 3 armors cover thorax, stomach and arms, which is pretty much universally agreed upon to be bad overall because of the simple way that armor durability is implemented at the moment. I discussed this in more detail in my video around armor plates and potential future changes to armor coverage, but right now, because durability is represented by one number over the entire armor, shots to the arms then affect your thorax protection afterwards, as the overall durability is lower, meaning that you're more likely to die from a shot to the chest later. Most regular armors protect thorax and stomach only, and there are some armors that only protect the thorax. In the Class 5 category, this is restricted to the armor rigs. There's one strange exception, which is the Osprey, but as this does thorax and arms together, this is not great for the reasons that we discussed previously. The best two armors objectively for protection then are either the 6B13 Tan, or the Killa armor as it's more regularly known, or the Ars Armor CPC rig, both with 133 effective durability. Typically, thorax only is seen as more meta, because although the stomach is important, against the typical high pen meta, which is usually where top tier players focus their ammo choices, losing your stomach won't kill you, but losing the thorax will, i.e. the same argument that we had against the arms armor. However, more choices have appeared over the last year or so for high damage, low pen leg meta rounds, which makes running thorax only armor increasingly dangerous and more so than it was in the past. Rounds such as ACP RIP, and more commonly the KS-23 with Shrap 10, should make any player seriously consider taking stomach protection, and this is because of the multiplier that the stomach takes. When blacked out and shot again, damage dealt to the arms and legs deals 70% and 100% of the damage evenly over the rest of the body respectively, which again strengthens the argument not to protect the arms in the first place. However, the stomach distributes 150% and acts as a multiplier for this damage. With regular high pen rounds dealing relatively low damage, for example M995 with 40 damage, you'd need to be hit 8 times in the stomach to kill you, which versus the potential for 3 shots or 4 to 5 if top level armor is being used is not really an issue. However, with the 2 flesh rounds mentioned above, this really is a scary proposition. Shrap 10 causes 87 damage per pellet with 8 pellets fired in total. If half of these hit you in the stomach, i.e. 4 pellets, the first pellet blacks the stomach with 70 damage, then proceeds to deal a further 17 times 1.5 for a 95.5 total damage on the first pellet only. The remaining shots then deal 87 times 1.5, which is 130.5 each, for 487 damage versus 440 total HP of your unfortunate PMC, which would kill you in one hit, bypassing the thorax entirely. With ACP RIP, similarly, 3 shots to the stomach would take you down, again completely ignoring your thorax only meta armor. So the choice here really depends on who you think you'll be fighting more frequently. There's more of an argument for running stomach protection on factory, for example, than on labs. The other big difference between the Killa and the AACPC is that generally of regular armor vests versus armored rigs. Armor vests typically are more expensive for your loadout overall because you have to buy a separate rig, but it is more flexible as you can choose exactly what that rig is. The armoured rigs on the other hand have a specific advantage if you play on reserve, in that you cannot use the Red Rebel Cliff Descent extract with armour on, but rigs don't count and let you bypass the requirement. This makes the AACPC and the TacTech great for running reserve specifically. Before we finally cross-reference the armours with their actual economics, there are a few other key stats that we need to check out too, being the turn rate, the move speed modifier, ergonomics and weight. These are all penalties over wearing nothing, but as you can see the super heavy armors are very punitive on these metrics, reducing move speed by somewhere between 20 and 37%, which is arguably the most important stat here because this directly affects how fast you walk and run. One armor to note here is in the cheaper armors, the Korund is particularly bad for this at minus 18%. Turn speed is also kind of important, but more so for consistency. If you really care about your muscle memory and accuracy, you technically can adjust your mouse sensitivity to counter this, although I'm not sure if anyone would actually do this in practice. More realistically, always choosing armors with similar turn debuffs to keep your control consistent is a sensible idea if you want to maximise your own competitiveness in gunfights. The Killa, the AACPC, TacTech and the Gazelle all have the same turn modifier, so can be run interchangeably without messing up your aim. On the other hand, the Korund, the Defender and the Reduced M at minus 9 to minus 12 are also quite similar if you wanted a different set of armors to use together. One odd thing here is the Gen 4 mobility, which ironically has minus 17% turn rate, which is worse than the Gen 4 Assault at minus 14%. I've actually reported this as a bug because it doesn't make sense to me. Ergonomics and weight are less of a consideration. Outside of the biggest bulkier armors, the ergo difference is at most 9%, and that's from the TacTech to the Gen 4 mobility. Now I don't actually know precisely how this is calculated, but if we had a gun at 60 ergo, I would guess this effectively takes the ergo lower from there, so to 58 with the TacTech and 53 with the Gen 4. So it's kind of important, but not a driving force behind our overall decision. The same goes for weight. This will tip you over the threshold of overweight faster, but we're talking about a few kilograms here or there, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Given everything we've seen so far, the armours that we're most interested in are the Korund, the Gazelle, the Defender, the Tactec, the Redoute M, the AACPC and the Killa. But, onto the moment you've been waiting for, the economics. Economic factors are clearly some of the most important reasons to choose an armour, and Class 5 is usually a decent step up from Class 4 in cost, where prices start at around 100,000 rubles new. But Level 5 is capped by Level 6 armour 2 at the other end, so prices can't really go higher than this. A Level 6 will very roughly set you back around 250,000, either new or very close to new with repairs. The availability of most of these armours on the flea is determined by the drop rate on raiders and bosses as the primary source of high tier armour in raid. This is generally why some armours are available on the flea and some are just incredibly rare to see. Outside of this, the trader barters and cash deals provide the rest of the supply for these items, requiring at least level 3 in any trader to get access to these directly, although some of them are really good value. Unsurprisingly, these are primarily with Ragman, and at trader level 3 you get access to the Gen 4 mobility barter for 7 GP coins, which isn't worth it at the moment, and the Gazelle barter for 2 gold chains and 3 coffee, but you can also buy it in cash once you complete Supervisor for 126,000 rubles. The barter can be cheaper than the cash deal if the market is in the right place, however 126,000 is actually pretty good for what the Gazelle offers. The other really cheap armour is the Korund, which is unusual as it's with Prapor. The level 3 barter for 4 diaries is decent, and can make it as cheap as 100,000 at times, or 112 from the trader directly at level 4. The barter here is the earliest direct trade for level 5 armour outside of the flea, and the cheapest overall way to get anything with class 5. However, people do sell the Gazelle new for around 120,000 on the marketplace sometimes. Just be sure to get a new one, as the ceramic material makes them repair really badly. We touched on material previously regarding effective durability, but there is a second element which is the repairability, which is separate and determines how much of an armour's maximum durability it loses when repaired. Of these, steel and polymer are excellent, aluminium, titanium and aramid are good, combined materials is okay, and ceramic and glass are bad. In Class 5, there are no aluminium or aramid armours, and glass is just for visors. This means that we'd rather use an armour with good repairability if we are likely to survive our raids or get it back in insurance, but on the flip side, if we die, it can make it more likely that another player will take our armour, as they can repair it themselves and use it. With insurance costs increasing across the board recently, now we have to think really carefully about whether it's worth insuring certain pieces of armour, and the likelihood of someone making it out of raid with it. The bigger the item is space-wise, the heavier it is, and the repairability overall are what will determine how likely someone is to loot it over other items. This is one reason why good rigs like the AACPC get taken so frequently, as you can put them neatly into many bags, and the internal space that they have effectively multiplies your capacity to carry loot, along with a handy 2x2 slot for high tier items or a helmet. Anyway, the next one is the Defender. This is flea only and approximately 180,000 for a new one. Although steel repairs well, it's still expensive to do so. I bought one with 15 out of 70 durability from the flea for 140,000, and it cost 60,000 from Prapor to repair. Combined with the middling effective durability that comes from steel, makes this armour not really worth it to me for the cost. Next is the Tactec, which is a nice armour. It's big at 4x4, and it has no 2x2 slots, so it's harder to take than other rigs, as well as having decent durability. It's around 220,000 on the flea, so definitely on the upper end, and the barter can ensure that you get a 100% durability piece for around 200,000, depending on the price of gas masks and the neoprenes. This used to be one of my favourite rigs, but it's got a little bit too expensive in my opinion. The Redoute M is a nice middle ground of all things. Second best effective durability of the non-arms armour, it's flea only but can be routinely found for around 115 to 140k. With minus 13% move speed, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. In terms of price for performance, this would be my overall best pick. The final two are the Killa and the AACPC. With best in class effective durability, Killas go for around 200,000 and AACPCs for 250k. Is this worth it? Well, maybe, if you're confident in your high survival rate and ability to repair them multiple raids in a row, otherwise I'd say maybe not. However, the barter for the AACPC is one of the best in the entire game if you can get to level 4 Ragman. 3 Kajura, a whiskey and 3 Ripstop comes to about 110k simply buying components from the flea, which is outrageous value. The reason why it's like this is because of the craft in the hideout. 4 sling bags for 1 Kajura. Prior to this craft, Kajuras used to sell for about 60,000 each. Now they can be crafted quickly for around 8,000, which is the reason why the price is so low. This in turn has driven the AACPC craft really low, and as it's locked behind Ragman level 4, which is now the highest trader requirement at 42, it takes most players a significant amount of time to get to. In summary, if you want the cheapest level 5 you can get, choose the Korund through the diary barter. If you want the best all-rounder, go for the Redude M, and for meta, get to Ragman 4 and do the AACPC barter. I really think we're getting close to the stage in the wipe where the difference between 4 and 5 matters much more, and can certainly save you a loadout where otherwise you'd get 2-tapped. If you want to help support the channel, as always consider dropping a like and a sub. I also stream on Twitch and co-host a weekly Tarkov podcast called ScavTalk, for which there's a link in the description. To catch me when I'm live, make sure to check out my Twitter, which is where I keep my schedule up to date. And with all that said, I'll see you next time, and as always, have fun in your raids.